Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the presentation of colors, and please remain standing for our invocation. Color Guard, parade the colors. Color Guard, retire the colors. Chaplain Riley will now deliver the invocation.
Let us pray. Eternal Father, strong to save, ever-present source of all our days, and especially today, as we pause in the excitement of this commencement to offer up this prayer, may we turn our minds and our hearts to you in this moment. We thank you for the wisdom that you have given, wisdom that is the ultimate source of all learning and inspiration. We stand here, each one from a great diversity of peoples and nations, representing the best in effort and achievement, united in study and common cause, eager to apply that knowledge in service. As our graduates mark this great milestone in their personal and professional lives, may your understanding be with them. Lead them into positions of leadership and influence for the good. Give them that wisdom and that knowledge to use it rightfully, those things they've gained here at the Naval Postgraduate School. And Lord, let this short space of time in which we honor their achievement be remembered and nurtured in mind and spirit as they go forth and accomplish what you have set out for them to do. Help them at last to do this with boldness and confidence. I ask this now in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Riley. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Again, good morning and welcome to the Naval Postgraduate School's Winter Quarter Graduation Ceremony. I'd like to begin this morning's ceremony by thanking the Del Monte Brass and the Naval Postgraduate School Color Guard. A quick introduction. The men and women sharing the stage with President Rout and Provost Hensler today are the deans from our various schools, distinguished professors, and our local military leadership. They've all been deeply involved in the education of today's graduates. At this time, I'm honored to introduce our President, Vice Admiral Ronald Rout, U.S. Navy retired.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Dean of Students. Let me add my thanks to the Color Guard and to our very own Del Monte Brass. Thank you all. I'd also like to recognize the bagpiper. I don't know if he can hear us or where he is, but he did a wonderful job. Thank you. I keep getting motions here from the base commander pointing to my wife, who is the flutist in the Del Monte Brass. This has been a time of growth for all of us, and also for the Del Monte Brass, who has now started to add woodwind. So what a nice touch. Distinguished guests, faculty and staff, friends and family, and soon-to-be graduates, good morning and welcome to today's graduation ceremony. Today is a celebration of individual commitment, perseverance, and personal accomplishment. We are here today, along with friends and family, to express our pride and joy in our students' academic achievements. I would also like to acknowledge the faculty and staff whose dedication to each student here made this graduation possible. You are a world-class and you are amazing. Your passion for teaching and commitment to this institution are appreciated by everyone here with us today, especially these graduates. Because of your incredible teamwork, we are graduating another class of highly educated service members and civilians. These graduates will return to their respective organizations and home nations, armed with the critical thinking and advanced problem-solving skills necessary to address their local, as well as the world's most complex defense-focused challenge. With that, I'd like to ask the faculty to please stand up and let's acknowledge their tremendous contribution to this group of graduates. Thank you. While we honor our graduates and the faculty who helped them get to where they are today, we must recognize our graduates' families and friends as well. You who placed your busy lives on hold to join us here and to share in our students' success. Today would not be possible without your sacrifice, your love, and your support. Thank you. And I'd ask, let's everybody join me in thanking family and friends. Thank you. To the graduates here today, words cannot express our profound pride in you. We have immersed you in an extremely competitive academic environment that has enabled you to focus and think about the challenges that affect your service and our national security. It is our hope that your postgraduate school education will serve as your anchor upon which the rest of your careers are built. The skills you have developed here will help you to serve more effectively wherever you are called. And our nation will look to you as strategic influencers wherever your careers take you. We know each of you will make a difference. I know you will take full advantage of the opportunities to build on the lasting relationships you have fostered here with your fellow students. The professional contacts you've made here can last throughout your career and throughout your lifetime. I would also encourage you to be good mentors and citizens in the communities in which you live and work. Citizens, like your fellow graduates, Lieutenant Andy Mendez, who dedicated hours each week to tutoring area children through Breakfast for Your Brain program, and Lieutenant Jacqueline Evans, who gave up precious study time to work with the National Naval Officers Association and to volunteer at nearby San Carlos School. But it's not just what you do as a good community member that makes a difference. It's also the contribution that you make in your respective professional capacities. Students, Lieutenant Commander Mark Bumate and Lieutenant Brandon Somerville did just that when they traveled to the Philippines following Typhoon Haiyan. They were embedded with the 3rd Marine Expeditionary Brigade, providing alternatives for power and communications with the Naval Postgraduate School's owned, hastily formed networks group. And taken from today's headlines, our graduates and students are using the best practices they learned at NPS to respond to the tragic mudslides in Snohomish County, Washington. John Pennington, the Emergency Managing Director of Snohomish County, is a graduate of the Center for Homeland Defense and Security's Executive Leaders Program. Tom Davis, one of the responding sheriff's deputies, and several members of the staff of the County Emergency Management are currently enrolled in our Distance Learning Master's Program in Homeland Security. Altogether, among Washington State mudslide first responders, there are 22 Master's Program alumni and 8 current Master's students. 16 Homeland Security professionals from Washington are Executive Leader Program participants, and greater than 645 users associated with organizations in Washington State access the Center's Homeland Security Digital Library, which is the nation's premier collection of Homeland Security policy and strategy. Can I have applause, please, for our volunteers for the Center for Homeland Defense and Security? Leaving Monterey is always difficult, but you will leave with some great memories. More importantly, you will leave with an education and a set of skills and a wider network of friends and colleagues that you can be proud of and that you will use daily throughout the remainder of your careers. And now, it is my distinct honor and personal privilege to introduce our guest speaker, the Postgraduate School Provost, Dr. Douglas Hensler. In the short time that I have come to know him, he has continually demonstrated an unwavering commitment to achieving this institution's mission. Extraordinary times call for extraordinary leadership. Dr. Hensler, who was named provost in June last year, is one of those extraordinary leaders. He came to us with a wealth of experience in both academia and industry, and a commitment in his heart to Naval Postgraduate School students, faculty, and staff. Allow me to list just a few of his impressive credentials. Dr. Hensler earned a Bachelor of Science in Engineering in Aerospace and Mechanical Sciences from Princeton University, a Master's, an MBA from the University of Portland, and a PhD in Finance from the University of Washington. In 2008, he served as the Dean of the W. Frank Barton School of Business at Wichita State University, where he led organizational change that streamlined the school's ability to collaboratively respond to student and corporative initiatives involving other academic institutions. Earlier, he served as dean, and Sig Craig endowed Dean's Chair in the Craig School of Business at California State University at Fresno. And in another phase of his amazing career, as the W. Edwards Deming Distinguished Professor of Management at the University of Colorado in Boulder. Traveling extensively abroad, he built a network of international partnerships that included serving as special advisor to the Australian Organization for Quality and as a key member of the Scottish First Minister's Special Advisory. Before returning to the academic community, he fostered a highly successful management career for 13 years in project, staff, and line management within the nuclear and aerospace engineering industry. He also provided training and consulting services to such notable clients as American Airlines, CH2M Hill, and FEMA. Recognized for his diverse expertise and skills, he worked closely with CEOs and other executives from the Wichita aviation community, including Spirit Aerosystems, Cessna, Boeing, Beechcraft, as well as the Coleman Company, best known for its outdoor products. Somewhere along the way, Dr. Hensler found the time to author and co-author several articles and manuscripts. He has written on a wide variety and cross-disciplinary set of topics that include value creation, technology development, and leadership, just to name a few. I would go on, but let's face it, you've spent enough time in the library. As you can see and hear with those introductory remarks about where our provost has been, it's amazing to me that we have seen such diverse use of all of that already in the time that you're here. And as I have told the CNO and others in Navy leadership, we are very lucky to have him here. So without further ado, let me introduce Provost Hensler.
Thank you, President Rao. That's very kind of you. After listening to that, I can hardly wait to hear what I say. So, as I previewed with the graduates yesterday at rehearsal, here it is. You know, it's pretty thick, so get comfortable. Actually, I had the president preview it, and he declared what he calls a Husky Code 106. And I can tell you what that is. That's, I like the beginning and I like the end, make them closer together. Now, not to be outdone by the doctoral graduates today, I have titled my talk, and the title is A Multisyllabic Exposition Without Polynomial Support or Nonlinear Differential Equations, Addressing the Naval Postgraduate School and Naval Strategy. Thank you. And to the graduates, their loved ones, and supporters, congratulations to you all on this momentous day. Earning a degree at NPS is not a cakewalk, and your perseverance is commendable, and that's for both of the students, the graduates, and their families. Graduate degrees do put extra pressures on families. They're fairly legendary for that. I've now been here for 10 months, and to the faculty I can say this. For administrators who join NPS from the outside, you sure run a tough and long boot camp. This morning I'd like to examine three things. NPS as a learning organization, and then the output of what a learning organization should be doing, and that is value creation. And then third, naval strategy and the infrastructure that will deliver on the mission in the future. I like to talk about NPS being a learning organization, and we sure should be, and there is a great deal of learning that takes place here. But our learning is not restricted to students. For those who teach, when we reached out and took hold of our terminal degree, we made a commitment to the academy. And that commitment was that we would be learners for the rest of our lives. And that, colleagues, students, faculty, staff, is at the crux of what NPS is about. So let's examine the tenets of being a learning organization through the lens of Peter Senge's fifth discipline. And I'll make these very brief. First is personal mastery. It's an assessment of a person's assets that they bring to the table of intellectual capital and leadership. One sets a goal that is against their background, an objective, honest evaluation of their background, and that goal then sets creative tension. And one of the management challenges for us to contend with in that is to manage the emotional tension that comes with that. So you folks have been doing that. As you pursued your degree, you had creative tension. I'm going for this goal to learn this material, and that has creative tension, and there is also emotional tension that goes with that. The next one is mental models. This is our experience, the background, our assumptions about what others are contemplating or advocating, etc., our assumptions about our own advocacy position. And they can be very different and often very opinion-driven. So if I'm from Kenya and I'm in London and there's some snow in the middle of London, there's been this big snowstorm. If I'm from Finland, the snow isn't even proper snow. The next is shared vision. This is a very important one for NPS. Do we have shared vision about where NPS is going? We'll be working on this some more. But our mission is clear, and the vision that goes with that is that NPS is the very best graduate university in our field. We are indeed a category of one superior graduate university. There's nobody else that does what we do. And the value that we bring to our nation's defense and peacekeeping is immeasurable. The fourth discipline is team learning, and it follows from the other three disciplines. In order to effectively have team learning in a group, we must be willing to expose our assumptions about what other people are thinking, what our adversary may be thinking, what the other advocate may be thinking. And then finally, systems thinking, which is the fifth discipline. That things are interlinked, that there are reinforcing, balancing, and lagged effects at play when we make decisions or when we add stimuluses to a system. And Singhee wraps all this up under that umbrella of systems thinking. So if we're a learning organization, what's that about? What a learning organization is about is value creation. It is the output of a strong learning organization. As President Rout likes to say, NPS is about the convergence of outstanding students coming in from the fleet and the field. Really the best students in the world. Our faculty often say that. And a world-class faculty to produce incredible leaps in value to the Navy and to our nation. And here at NPS, this value creation extends to students from our allies and to Defense Department civilians for the total student body of nearly 3,000. Here's a few examples of the value creation that just took place with this graduating class. In systems engineering, a project that focused on reducing fuel consumption in littoral combat ship air wing assets during anti-surface warfare while maintaining operational effectiveness. That's almost as good as my title. In mechanical engineering, a project that advances sustainability of weld repairs in aluminum decking that will ultimately save the Navy around $4 million a year. In the EMBA program, a business process project for U.S. PACOM with projected savings of 5%. In electrical and computer engineering, a project evolving from a detection problem in the South China Sea. The student invented a solution, then devised and executed the theoretical modeling to prove his solution. And it's a viable way to find and track targets. This is truly novel work that opens the door to a whole new path of covert target tracking with existing tools. And in operations research and analysis that has led operational fuel savings projected to be in the area of $15 million annually. And I could, of course, go on for hours citing the savings that NPS has produced for our nation. Externally, we have recognition of our value creation. Earlier this quarter, the Operations Research Department received the Informs UPS George D. Smith Prize, a very prestigious award for the world's oldest OR program. And I think it's the best OR program, and many people do. Recent U.S. News and World Report rankings are all out. Computer science is ranked 70th in the nation, public affairs 46th, and systems engineering was ranked 20th in the nation. And this is, I think, a really profound statement about NPS because there are so many other departments that are allied with systems engineering in delivering the curriculum. So the third item, how does all this learning organization orientation and value creation fit in the Navy strategy and infrastructure? Well, if we look at the evolution of weapons, if we go back to hand-to-hand combat and then throwing rocks at each other, and spears and catapults and then gunpowder and all that means, and nuclear and laser and electronic and cyber. If we just look across the evolution of weapons systems, what we see is increasing the distance between the adversaries, leading to remoteness, trying to see over the horizon, and then the speed with which weapons are delivered, and then the other effect, stealth, delivering weapons stealthily. Weapons and the support of a warfighting and peacekeeping machine are the physical infrastructure of the Navy. As distance and remoteness become near the boundary condition, then speed and stealth are leveraged to enhance the effect. this places increased importance on the other form of infrastructure, intellectual capital. And while NPS engages in the development of the physical infrastructure, our domain is intellectual capital. For you, our graduates, that presents itself as your critical thinking and your ability to communicate the result of that critical thinking. In the future, distance, remoteness, speed, and stealth will place even greater importance on naval strategy with regard to intellectual capital and on your abilities to think critically under extreme time pressure and communicate that effectively. We think you are prepared for that now, but your learning is really just beginning. And so I would conclude by saying that NPS is like a ship at sea. We never shut down the power plant. We weather storms, some very severe storms, and stay the course. While we yearn for fair winds and following seas, we know that the weather changes, and so we must be prepared for those storms. And so to you, our graduates, we say, we will be here in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. And you can call from your post at any time and get our help. Stay in touch with us here at NPS. Stay in touch with each other. These relationships are where real value lies. And so we wish you fair winds and following seas.
I'd now like to invite President Rout and Provost Hensler forward for the conferring of candidates. Will the candidates for the degree Doctor of Philosophy please stand and proceed to the platform?
Will Mr. Daniel Chang, the candidate for the degree Doctor of Philosophy in Software Engineering, please cross the stage? The title of Mr. Chang's dissertation is Design Patterns for Real-Time Ultra-Wide Instantaneous Bandwidth Signal Simulation. Mr. Chang's dissertation advisor is Professor Neil Rowe from the Department of Computer Science. Daniel Chang's research has created a new software, firmware, hardware co-design methodology to systematically build correct designs efficiently. This co-design methodology includes requirements development, architecture forming, software, firmware, hardware partitioning, design pattern mapping, new design pattern synthesis, integration, and testing. President Rout, I present to you Mr. Chang. He has completed all requirements prescribed by the faculty and is recommended for the degree Doctor of Philosophy.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree Doctor of Philosophy with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto pertaining.
Will Major Chung Hao Yang, the candidate for the degree Doctor of Philosophy in Modeling, Virtual Environments, and Simulation, please cross the stage? The title of Major Yang's dissertation is Development of a Locomotion Interface for Portable Virtual Environment Systems Using an Inertial Magnetic Sensor-Based System and Ranging Measurement System. Major Yang's dissertation advisor is Professor Xiaoping Yang from the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering. Major Yang's dissertation describes the development of a novel locomotion interface for building self-contained portable and immersive virtual environment systems. Such locomotion interface allows users to use natural walking motions to navigate large virtual environments. President Rout, I present to you Major Yang. He has completed all requirements prescribed by the faculty and is recommended for the degree Doctor of Philosophy.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree Doctor of Philosophy, with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto pertaining.
Will Lieutenant Colonel Christian Klaus, the candidate for the degree Doctor of Philosophy in Operations Research, please cross the stage. The title of Lieutenant Colonel Klaus's dissertation is Network Design for Reliability and Resilience to Attack. Lieutenant Colonel Klaus's dissertation advisor is Ned Dimitrov from the Department of Operations Research. Lieutenant Colonel Klaus's dissertation formulates and solves integer programming problems to determine the optimal amount of redundancy in transportation networks to make them resilient to attacks. The primary insights deal with the generalization of path independence in networks and have direct application for the transportation of hazardous material and to complex logistic problems. President Rao, I present to you Lieutenant Colonel Klaus. He has completed all requirements prescribed by the faculty and is recommended for the degree Doctor of Philosophy.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the degree Doctor of Philosophy, with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto pertaining.
Will the candidates for the engineer's degree please stand and proceed to the platform?
The engineer's degree is a degree that is intermediate between a master's degree and a PhD. It requires more courses than a master's degree, and the student spends more time in the thesis investigation probing deeper into research than for a master's thesis. President Rout, I present to you these candidates after consideration of their academic accomplishments. The Academic Council will recommend them for the degree Mechanical Engineer as specified.
Upon the recommendation of the Academic Council, I will, by the authority vested in me, confer upon them the degree Mechanical Engineer as specified with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto pertaining.
Candidates for the degree Mechanical Engineer: Lieutenant Commander Soterios Margonis, Hellenic Navy, Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering, Master of Science in Information Technology Management, with distinction and an outstanding thesis. Lieutenant Commander Spiridon Plessis, Hellenic Navy, Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering, outstanding thesis. Will the candidates for the degrees Master of Arts, Master of Science, Master of Business Administration, and Executive Master of Business Administration please stand?
President Rout, I present to you these candidates. After consideration of their academic accomplishments, the Academic Council will recommend them for the degree Master of Arts, Master of Science, Master of Business Administration, and Executive Master of Business Administration as specified.
Upon the recommendation of the Academic Council, I will, by the authority vested in me, confer upon them the degree Master of Arts, Master of Science, Master of Business Administration, and Executive Master of Business Administration as specified, with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities thereunto pertaining.
Will the candidates please proceed to the platform, and the remaining graduates please be seated. Of this quarter's total 323 graduating class, 75 have also earned their command and staff diploma from the Joint Professional Military Education Program sponsored by the Naval War College. Master of Arts in Security Studies, Middle East, South Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, Ms. Rachel N. Davis, civilian, Naval Postgraduate School. Master of Arts in Security Studies, Far East, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific, Captain Daniel Kim, U.S. Army. Lieutenant Joseph Louis Pruce V also earned the Louis D. Luskin Award for Excellence in Regional Security Studies, graduated with distinction and an outstanding thesis. Lieutenant Michael Schelscher. Major David Kim, U.S. Air Force. Captain Mandy McHugh, U.S. Air Force. Major Koo Seo Wee Serene, Singapore Air Force. Master of Arts in Security Studies, Western Hemisphere, Major Roger Antonio Carnaval, U.S. Army. Major Omar Roberto, U.S. Army. Lieutenant Commander Zathan Baker. Lieutenant Bettina Corey. Lieutenant Nathaniel Fetting. Lieutenant Commander Robert Storer also received the Monterey Council Navy League Award for highest academic achievement and graduated with distinction. Lieutenant Commander David Yokers. Captain Nicolas Alejandro Aquino, U.S. Air Force. Major Jorge Jamarillo, U.S. Air Force, also received the Outstanding United States Air Force Graduate Award, Department of National Security Affairs, the Hans Jones Award for Excellence in Thesis Research in Special Operations and Irregular Warfare on Security, Stabilization, Transition, Reconstruction, and recognized for an outstanding thesis. Major Oscar Martinez, U.S. Air Force. Captain Corey Robinson, U.S. Air Force. Major Wilfredo Ruiz, U.S. Air Force. Master of Arts in Security Studies, Europe and Eurasia, Lieutenant Casey Jude Travis. Major Jack Nelson, U.S. Air Force, also received the Air Force Association Award for Outstanding U.S. Air Force Student and recognized for an outstanding thesis. Major Damon Smith, U.S. Air Force. Master of Arts in Security Studies, Civil Military Relations, Lieutenant Colonel Bobby Chand, Nepalese Army. Lieutenant Colonel Chak Bahadur Takal, Nepalese Army. Ms. Irina Kabanenko, General Staff of Ukrainian Armed Forces. Ms. Maka Petriashvili, Georgian Ministry of Defense. Master of Arts in Security Studies, Defense, Decision-Making and Planning, Colonel Jamal Al-Ghatani, Saudi Arabian National Guard. Master of Arts in Security Studies, Homeland Security and Defense, Lieutenant James Anthony Barkley. Lieutenant Cameron Carlson. Lieutenant Brian Jones. Lieutenant Richard Kreutzer. Lieutenant Samuel Morgan, graduated with distinction. Lieutenant Kyle Edwin Recker. Lieutenant Commander Dustin Joseph Scouten. Lieutenant Commander Barclay St. Ami, U.S. Navy. Lieutenant Paul Valk, Jr. Master of Arts in Security Studies, Homeland Security and Defense, Captain Timothy Went, U.S. Coast Guard, New Orleans, Louisiana. Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Wenty, Air National Guard, Joint Base Andrews, Maryland. Colonel Damon Arnold, U.S. Army Reserve retired, Chicago State University, Illinois. Deputy Inspector Lorna Atmore, Nassau County Police Department, New York. Ms. Niurka Calcagno, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Washington, D.C. Deputy Mayor Eileen Decker, City of Los Angeles, California. Mr. Peyton Flynn, National Protections and Programs Directorate, Washington, D.C. Lieutenant Colonel James Gehring, U.S. Army retired, Transportation Security Administration, Washington, D.C. Lieutenant Stephen Max Guerin, Dallas Police Department, Texas, also received the Curtis H. Butch Straub Achievement Award. Ms. Christina Hamilton, United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, Washington, D.C. Lieutenant Thomas Healy, Fire Department of New York City. Ms. Sydney Hoffman, Federal Emergency Management Agency, Washington, D.C. Battalion Chief Glenn M. Holder, San Diego Fire Rescue Department, California. Mr. Kelly Houston, California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, Sacramento. Deputy Chief Keith Johnson, Fairfax County Fire and Rescue Department, Virginia. Special Agent in Charge, Paul Johnson, United States Secret Service, Kentucky. Supervisory Asylum Officer, Ms. Danielle Lehman, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, California. Assistant Special Agent in Charge, Ms. Monica Maple, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Texas. Lieutenant Sam McGee, Aurora Police Department, Colorado. And accepting the degree for Mrs. Dawn Melhoff, California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, is her husband. Dawn passed away late in her program. We're honored to award the degree posthumously. Accepting on behalf is her husband, Engineer Terry Melhoff, with the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District. Ms. Jeannie Moore, Federal Emergency Management Agency, Washington, D.C., recognized for an outstanding thesis. Lieutenant Kirk Nichols, San Diego Harbor Police Department, California. Deputy Fire Chief, Mr. Edward Pearson, District of Columbia Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department, Washington, D.C. Assistant Chief Cherie Penn, Minneapolis Fire Department, Minnesota. Ms. Lori Pesci, Summit County Public Safety Office, Ohio. Supervisory Federal Air Marshal Sergei Potapov, Federal Air Marshal Service, Virginia. Assistant Chief Mark Shaw, California Highway Patrol. Captain Martin Tierney, West Palm Beach Police Department, Florida. Battalion Chief Todd Tuggle, Fresno City Fire Department, California. Deputy Chief Trevor Womack, Stockton Police Department, California, also received the Philip Zimbardo Award. Lieutenant Rudolph Zupons, Ohio State Highway Patrol. Master of Science in Electrical Engineering, Lieutenant Richard Andrew Alley, U.S. Navy. Military Expert 5, Chong Si Sing, Republic of Singapore, Navy. Lieutenant Micah Munden, U.S. Navy. Lieutenant Adam Mel Osborne. Lieutenant Ashley Marie Wessel. Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering, Lieutenant Michelle Haggett, also received the Surface Navy Association's Award for Excellence in Surface Warfare Research and recognized for an outstanding thesis. Lieutenant Timothy Mayer, also recognized for an outstanding thesis. Master of Science in Meteorology and Physical Oceanography, Lieutenant Weston Kobe. Master of Science in Engineering Acoustics, Lieutenant Luis Estrada. Lieutenant David New. Master of Science in Operations Research, Lieutenant Commander Brennan Kemper, also received a Master's in Systems Analysis. Master of Systems Analysis, Lieutenant Carl Glass. Captain Brad Flats Jensen. Mr. Rulon Walker, Department of Defense, Hill Air Force Base, Utah. Master of Cost Estimating and Analysis, Ms. Rebecca Meyer, Department of Defense, Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Mr. Daniel Germani, Department of Defense, Warren, Michigan. Ms. Connie Ann Nunnally, Department of Defense Contractor, Everett, Washington. Mr. Todd Allen Pardo, Department of Defense, Hill Air Force Base, Utah. Mr. Jason Tadeo, Department of Defense, El Segundo, California. Ms. Miriam Uzun Iam, Department of Defense, El Segundo, California. Master of Science and Operations Analysis, Lieutenant Commander Roger Jacobs, recognized for an outstanding thesis. Lieutenant Jeffrey Key, also recognized for an outstanding thesis. Lieutenant Sarah Lynch. Lieutenant Brett Robley, recognized for an outstanding thesis. Master of Science in Systems Engineering, Mr. Lim Jun Ming Kelvin, Defense Singapore Technology Agency, Singapore. Mr. Teo Kwan Wei Edmund, Defense Singapore Technology Agency, Singapore. Mr. Jeffrey Allen Andrus, Naval Air Systems Command. Mr. Cesar Octavio Martin, Naval Air Systems Command. Ms. Christy Lei Wynn, Naval Air Warfare Center, Weapons Division. Mrs. Amanda Lazar Young, Naval Air Systems Command. Master of Science in Systems Engineering Management, Mr. Elaine Carlos de Leon, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division, also received the Meyer Award for Outstanding Student in Systems Engineering Distance Learning. Ms. Julianne Ligman, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division. Mr. Aaron Osteich, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division. Mr. Brandon Dwayne Will, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division. Mrs. Victoria Woods, Naval Surface Warfare Center, Port Hueneme Division. Master of Science in Space Systems Operations, Lieutenant Commander Brian Baker. Lieutenant Colin Boyle also received the Space Systems Operations Award for Academic Excellence and graduated with distinction. Lieutenant Commander Charles Cha. Lieutenant Matthew Falconberry. Lieutenant Commander Brian Frederick also received the Admiral William Adger Moffett Space Systems Award. Lieutenant Keith Riney. Lieutenant Jared Smearman. Master of Science in Cyber Systems and Operations, Major Darian Pitts, U.S. Army. Lieutenant Commander David Bergeson also received the Fleet Cyber Command Award for academic excellence in cyber operations and was recognized for an outstanding thesis. Lieutenant Miguel Cueva. Lieutenant Daniel Fleming, graduated with distinction. Lieutenant Jason Hughes. Lieutenant John Lundgren, Jr. Lieutenant Wiley McDade. Lieutenant Jeffrey Whitsett. Lieutenant Jerry Wyrick. Master of Science in Computer Science, Lieutenant Samuel Fleming. Lieutenant Nicholas Lang. Lieutenant Commander Vincent Wynn. Lieutenant William Parker, recognized for an outstanding thesis. Lieutenant Tony Tran. Lieutenant Gökay Hughes, Turkish Coast Guard, also received the Monterey Kiwanis Club Outstanding International Student Award. Mr. Ricky Schwalm, Information Sciences Department, Naval Postgraduate School, also recognized for an outstanding thesis. Master of Science in Information Technology Management, Lieutenant Commander Randall Everly, also received Master in Business Administration and Information Systems Management and the Rear Admiral Grace Murray Hopper Information Technology Management Award. Lieutenant David Limmer, Master of Business Administration and Information Systems Management Award. Lieutenant Cameron Mackley. Lieutenant John Van Ash. Master of Science in Network Operations, Lieutenant Dusty Bartlett, graduated with distinction. Mark or Anthony? Dusty Bartlett. Lieutenant Commander Anthony Bumate. And that name may sound familiar. It was Lieutenant Commander Bumate was recognized in President Rout's remarks earlier. Lieutenant Raymond Castillo. Lieutenant Richard Dentler, Jr. Lieutenant Isaac Donaldson, graduates with distinction. Lieutenant Commander Kevin Johnston. Lieutenant Carlton Brandon Somerville. Master of Science in Information Warfare Systems Engineering, Captain John Mooney IV, U.S. Marine Corps, also received a Master's in Business Administration and Information Systems Management. Executive Masters in Business Administration, Captain Thomas Bittner, U.S. Marine Corps. Captain David Salvador Rubio, U.S. Marine Corps. Lieutenant Kenneth Paul Bond. Lieutenant Commander John Bowman also received the Louis D. Liskin Award for Excellence in Business and Public Policy and graduates with distinction. Commander Trupti Rambat, U.S. Navy. Lieutenant Eric Brooks. Lieutenant Tim Fehrenbach. Commander Donald Droopy Gaines. Lieutenant Tim Lacey. Lieutenant Jason Locke. Lieutenant Commander Dante Mack. Lieutenant Commander Kelly Joanne Mahaffey. Lieutenant Robert Molinaro. Lieutenant Commander James Pressler. Commander Dan Raphael. Lieutenant Commander Matthew Drescher Stoll. Lieutenant Richard John Theriault II, U.S. Navy. Lieutenant Commander John Timothy. Mr. George Gofka, NASA Johnson Space Center, graduates with distinction. Mr. Jose Garcia, NASA Johnson Space Center. Ms. Laura Kearney, NASA Johnson Space Center, graduates with distinction. Mr. Bradley Neese, NASA Johnson Space Center. Mr. Joseph Williams, NASA Johnson Space Center, graduates with distinction. Masters of Science and Program Management, Ms. Sharon McNally. Mr. Richard A. Chandler, Joint IED Defeat Organization. Mr. Joseph Russell, Defense Contractor, Aegis BMD Program Office. Mrs. Poppy Tulich, Civilian Marine Forces Reserve, New Orleans, Louisiana. Mr. Brian T. Wilson Sr., Civilian, U.S. Army Test and Evaluation Command. Master of Science and Management, Major Christine Baraletti, U.S. Marine Corps. Captain Ryan Capadon, U.S. Marine Corps, recognized for an outstanding thesis. Captain Alexandra Cole, U.S. Marine Corps. Captain Christopher Zepiel, U.S. Marine Corps, recognized for an outstanding thesis. Major Alan Dinsdale, U.S. Marine Corps. Major Cheryl Ryan, U.S. Marine Corps. Captain Kimberly Sontag, U.S. Marine Corps. Major Teresa Streetbull, U.S. Marine Corps. Lieutenant Clinton Seralde, recognized for an outstanding thesis. Lieutenant Commander Earl Crawford. Lieutenant James Galladay also received the Chief of Naval Personnel Award for academic excellence in manpower, personnel, training, and analysis, and also recognized for an outstanding thesis. Lieutenant Christopher Harvey. Lieutenant Ezra Hatch. Lieutenant Ronaldo Hollins. Lieutenant Sabondo Josiah. Lieutenant Commander Natalie Coaches. Lieutenant Kelly Lashinsky. Lieutenant Andia Mendez also received the Naval Postgraduate School Superior Service Award. Lieutenant Luis Ortiz IV, U.S. Navy. Lieutenant Edward Prendergast. Lieutenant Adam Turpin. Lieutenant Otter Vance. Major Adam Crockett, Australian Army, also received the Naval Postgraduate School Outstanding Academic Achievement Award for International Students, the Graduate School of Business and Public Policy Faculty Outstanding International Student Award, the Lewis D. Liskin Award for Excellence in Business and Public Policy, and graduates with distinction. First Lieutenant Emrah Ibish, Turkish Army. First Lieutenant Shalan Tunç Bilek, Turkish Air Force. Captain Mitch Bruce, United States Marine Corps. Major Courtney Jones, United States Marine Corps. Master of Business Administration, Major Paul Gogin, U.S. Marine Corps, also received the Marine Corps Association Superior Service Award for Outstanding U.S. Marine Student. Major Terry Harper, U.S. Marine Corps. Lieutenant Commander Pakpun P. Roteja Nanan, Royal Thai Navy. Ms. Alana Tweed, Naval Postgraduate School, also received the Naval Postgraduate School Outstanding Academic Achievement Award for Department of Defense and recognized for an outstanding thesis. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving all our graduates a well-deserved round of applause. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's graduation ceremony. And on behalf of the President and all of us at Naval Postgraduate School, I'd like to once again thank you for your presence here. We offer our sincere appreciation of Naval Postgraduate School Color Guard and the Del Monte Brass. I'm going to ask that you please remain clear of the center aisles until the platform party and the faculty have departed. President Rout invites graduates, faculty, guests to reception and honor the graduates in the Barbara McNitt Ballroom of Herman Hall immediately following today's ceremony. Chaplain Riley will now give the benediction.
I'd like to say a word here before. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final graduation for Chaplain Rixley to participate with. We have appreciated his support and his wonderful prayers throughout his time here, and I just want to give the chaplain some appreciation, and please put your hands together for him.
Let us pray. Most holy and gracious one, I thank you again for the wisdom you grant to those who seek, and especially for each new graduate gathered before us. May the instruction of their professors and the love of their families and friends continue to serve them well and strengthen them and give them a sense of a greater cause than themselves, with all honor and courage of conviction and commitment to stay true to their highest principles. As we now leave this great hall with a renewed sense of purpose and direction, whether graduate or student, faculty or staff, family or friend, may your peace be with us, may your grace shine in us, and may your strength be evident in all that we do. I ask this now in your most holy name. Amen.